What if the most powerful being on the planet was never actually powerful at all? Picture this. Homelander stands in the Oval Office, the President of the United States dead at his feet, the entire world watching in terror. He has reached the absolute peak of his power. He is untouchable. He is a god. And then, nothing works. Episode 7 of Season 5, titled The Placebo God, is not just a television episode. It is an official funeral for the legend of Homelander. Today on DramaCrypt, we are breaking down the theory that the smartest woman alive, Sage, constructed the most elaborate trap in superhero history. The injection Homelander received was not a path to godhood. It was a one-way ticket straight into human weakness. Buckle up, because what happened inside the Oval Office and the secret soldier boy whispered to his own son is about to change this show forever. We open on a scene that steals the breath straight from your lungs. The camera locks on Sage's face as she watches live footage of President Calhoun's death and Homelander's descent into euphoric madness. And the expression in her eyes is not fear. It is not shock. It is the cold, focused look of a scientist watching her experiment reach its final stage. Here at DramaCrypt, we called this theory weeks ago. Sage never wanted Homelander stronger. She wanted to watch the monster after she had pulled out every single one of his claws. Here is how she did it. The compound V1 that Homelander injected was not real. Sage had discovered that the nuclear explosion in Soldier Boy's past had permanently neutralized the compound V in his blood. She extracted a sample from Soldier Boy's dead biological material, corrupted the V1 formula with it, and created what can only be described as a superhero placebo. She did not just betray him, she performed psychological surgery on him. She made Homelander believe he was beyond death, specifically so that the moment the truth hit him, it would destroy him completely from the inside. And in that same moment, the camera cuts to Kimiko, locked inside an enormous uranium machine. Sage is not running random experiments. She is attempting to reconstruct Soldier Boy's energy signature inside Kimiko's body, engineering her into the perfect mercy kill weapon for the moment Homelander's placebo wears off. On the other side of the story, Hughie and Butcher find themselves caught in a trap laid by Father. But the threat is not bullets. The threat is the past. The shifter assumes the form of Kessler, forcing Hughie to face the darkest chapters of Butcher's history directly. This scene is the most psychologically dense moment in the entire episode. The shifter is not trying to kill Hughie. It is trying to shatter the image of Butcher inside Hughie's mind, pushing him to finally abandon the man entirely. But this is where we see who Hughie has become. The Hughie who used to run from everything stands completely still. He looks the shifter dead in the eyes with a cold composure that feels almost frightening. Because Hughie already knows Butcher is a monster. He made peace with that a long time ago. He knows exactly which monster Butcher is, and that knowledge is his armor. Hughie does not fight with strength. He fights with patience. He baits the shifter into talking, drawing it out, buying time. And in the exact moment the shifter is most exposed, the real Butcher wakes from unconsciousness and hears every single word. The confrontation ends with Butcher killing the shifter in a moment of compressed rage. But the real consequence is invisible. The bond between Hughie and Butcher has deepened into something that is no longer just partnership. It is something far more dangerous and far more human. While Sage manages her experiment, Homelander arrives at the hideout in a state of absolute artificial euphoria. Sage, operating with diabolical precision, has already calculated that Kimiko must be protected. Kimiko is Asset 36. If the placebo fails, Kimiko is the only weapon that can finish Homelander before he recovers. And that is when Frenchie steps forward. Frenchie has carried the weight of his past for the entire run of this show. The violence he caused, the lives he could not save, the guilt that never fully left him. And in this moment, standing in front of the most powerful creature on Earth, he makes a decision. He is going to be the distraction. He is going to give Kimiko the seconds she needs to escape. He is going to be the bait. What makes this scene extraordinary is not the sacrifice itself. It is what Frenchie knows when he does it. His chemistry background, his instincts, his years of working with compounds and toxins. He catches it. A faint trace in the air around Homelander. Something off. Something dead in the scent of his sweat. Frenchie dies, knowing that the god standing in front of him is already a corpse that has not stopped moving yet. His death is not a loss. It is the first nail in Homelander's coffin, placed by the one person who smelled the truth before anyone else. And now we arrive at the moment that is going to detonate across every comment section and theory channel on the internet. In the final frame, over the wreckage of the hideout, Soldier Boy appears. Homelander, who has spent years searching for the approval of a father, who has ached for acceptance in a way that never matched his exterior of absolute dominance, runs toward him with the desperation of a child. And Soldier Boy looks at him with a contempt so complete, so dismissive, that it lands like a physical blow. He says to him, "The V1 in your blood is dead. You are not my son. You are just another disappointment." The episode ends on the most powerful visual this show has ever constructed. Homelander raises his eyes. He attempts to fire his heat vision at a stone wall, just to prove something to himself, just to prove something to the man standing in front of him. What comes out is barely a flicker, a dim, trembling glow. His face turns red from the strain and the pressure and the desperation. And then he falls to his knees and begins to weep blood. This is not a superhero anymore. This is a broken human being wearing a costume that no longer fits. This is where we need to slow down and sit with the dark genius of what Sage actually built. Here at DramaCrypt, we notice something that has been bothering us since the episode ended. Why did Sage allow Homelander to assassinate President Calhoun before letting him discover that his powers were gone? She could have let the placebo fail earlier. She chose not to. And the reason is terrifying. If Homelander had lost his powers before the assassination, he could have been tried as a private citizen. He could have disappeared. He could have negotiated. But Sage maneuvered him into committing high treason while he believed himself to be an immortal god. The moment he wakes up from the illusion of power, he is a weak human being wanted for the murder of a sitting president in every corner of the world. Sage did not just strip him of his strength. She locked the cage after she had already gotten him to destroy the only key. But here is the theory that is going to unsettle you even more. What does the placebo actually represent in the language of this show? Homelander has never drawn his power purely from Compound V. He draws it from perception, from the way people look at him, from the mirror of the crowd. When Sage gave him a fake injection, he believed he was a god, and that belief was enough to carry out the assassination without hesitation. Which means the monster was never inside the syringe. The monster was always inside his mind. And that leads us to the most destabilizing question of the entire season. What if Homelander's powers are not gone because of the placebo, but because some part of his psychology collapsed when he stood in front of Soldier Boy and saw only rejection? What if the weakness is not chemical at all? What if it is the wound he has been carrying since before any of this began? The show is holding a shattered mirror in front of us, and it is asking a question we are not entirely comfortable answering. We do not hate Homelander because he is powerful. We hate him because he reminds us of what we might become if we were handed absolute power and raised with absolute loneliness. Episode 7 is not just the end of a character arc. It is the beginning of a trial that every person watching is quietly a defendant in. The Placebo God poses the question that DramaCrypt was built to ask. Is power in the muscles, in the compound, in the serum, or is it in the story we tell ourselves about who we are? Sage has proven that intelligence is the only true god in this world. And Homelander, for all his years of terror and dominance, was always just a failed experiment in the hands of someone far more dangerous than he ever was. The question for you, the analysts in the comments: does Soldier Boy kill Homelander while he is this vulnerable? Or does he leave him alive to survive as something he spent his entire existence despising, an ordinary human being? The comment with the most airtight theory gets featured in the next video. Do not forget to like and subscribe, because the end of Legends has officially begun.